Welcome to this week's meeting of the Norton Board of Selectmen. Today is Thursday, March 23rd, 2017. Let the record show that all members are present, along with Town Manager Michael Units. Pledge of allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We have nothing on the licenses and permits. Under announcements.
Mr. Chairman, I have just one in my packet. The Norton Park and Recreation Annual Easter Egg Hunt will be held on Saturday, April 8th at 1 p.m. on the town common. This is a free event to Norton residents ages 2 to 8. Bring your own basket or bags to collect eggs in your child's corresponding age group area, and bring the camera to snap a picture with the Easter Bunny. There will be farm animals to visit, face painting as well. Be sure to be on time so you don't miss out on the fun of collecting. The eggs will begin at 1 p.m. and that is April 8th on Saturday at 1 p.m. on the town common. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Steele?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bramwell? Just a couple of things. Notice the special town meeting will be held on Monday, May 8th, 2017 at 7:30 p.m. at the Norton High School auditorium. The Board of Selectmen have called for a special town election to be held on June 6, 2017, to fulfill the requirements of a member of the Board of Selectmen for a one-year term. One position is available. Nomination papers are now available at the town clerk's office. They must be resubmitted to the office. Last day to submit nomination papers to the Board of Registrars is Tuesday, April 18th, 2017. The rabies clinic will be held at the Norton Town Hall Fire Department, 7 East Main Street, on Saturday, April 1st. That's a week ago, still a week away. 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., $13 per animal, and dogs should be on leashes and cats and carriers. And the town clerk's office will also be open to process dog licenses during the same time as the clinic. And that's all I have. Okay. Being well beyond 7:05, we have Superintendent Lopes here from Southeastern Regional School District on the presentation of fiscal year 18 budget. Mr. Lopes? Grab that, what's left of that podium there. Actually, you can sit down at the table if you'd like.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
The microphone works there also, so.
This is fine here?
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you have copies of the budget?
Yes, we do, yeah.
Okay. I have extras if anyone needs any. Okay. So what I'd like to do tonight is just kind of go over the Southeastern budget for 2018. What I'll do is I'll start by kind of giving an overview of the entire school district budget, and then really focus in on Norton. So if that's okay. So I'm right on page 1 of the handout. Our total budget for 2018 is $26,376,172. That's an increase of 3.3% from the current 2017 budget. The budget is made up of our operating budget, which we are again continue to operate at net school spending on minimum contribution. So we're able to do that again. Added to that is really the big cost is the transportation of the students. The good news on that is the aid from the state is up a little bit, so you'll actually see a net decrease in transportation costs for 2018. The last piece there is the MSBA project that we completed about 5 years ago, and as you see, out of the bond payment, $363,125. We're paying a good portion of that out of our adult ed receipts, and we maintain that $192,000 to the communities that we promised when we did that renovation project. On page 2 is our enrollment, and the enrollment in the district is up 2.7%. We're up 40 students over the current year. In Norton, it has stayed about the same. It's actually down 1 student. Okay. So on page 3, kind of just, again, kind of breaks down the budget, but in highlight, you'll see that in yellow there, the increase of 3.3%, and underneath that, you'll see the enrollment increase of 2.7%. I'm on page 3. Moving on to page 4, where we break down the assessments by member community. Norton's assessment for 2018 is $996,390, an increase of $16,177 over the previous year. Page 5 is kind of a new slide. Several towns have asked for that in the past to kind of, one of the questions is always, why does it seem certain communities pay higher per student than others? And what you can see from this slide is the actual cost by community is the same. What fluctuates there is the little piece in red there, which is the amount of state aid. So you can see, for example, Brockton gets 77% state aid, as opposed to Norton that gets 33% state aid. Okay, and that's based on the aggregate wealth model formula. So that maybe kind of helps explain why the per pupil cost is different, varies by community. It really is a result of the amount of aid that each community gets from the state. On page 6 is the breakdown for Norton over the last 7 or 8 years. You can see the increase of $16,177, which is an increase of 1.7% over the previous year. And the enrollment is down 1 student. The enrollment, over the last eight or so years has been declining, and I think that kind of goes along with the enrollment just in general in Norton. I mean, I'm sure, as you know, you're down about 500 students in 10 years in Norton. So, we're pretty much in line to what we'd expect. The rest of those pages are really the Department of Ed pages, how they figure out how much, you can afford and so forth, and I can go into those if you'd like, but I'll just kind of jump to the very last page, page 13, which is the amount of additional aid that Norton is getting to the town. And on page 13, you'll see number 6. Norton is the only additional aid Norton is getting from the state is that minimum aid of $20 per student of $50,000. So there's some talk that $20 per pupil is going to increase somewhere around $30 or $40. That you won't know that till the end of June. That could potentially have an impact of about $800. Any additional state aid that we get on the behalf of Norton just gets reduced. We call the town manager and let him know that the number changed. So that's a kind of a quick overview of the budget. I can talk about the budget, the school, anything specifics.
Any questions? Good.
Basically, it doesn't have anything to do with budget, but the fact that we're in a declining enrollment from Norton. And if enrollment in Norton were to increase, how do they select where the students come from? Is it like neediest? Is it
No, it's
aptitudes?
Yeah, the way regional vocational schools accept students is set really by the state, and it's on a it's basically on a scale. And so we look at grades, attendance, behavior, and then there's an interview and a recommendation from the middle school. So those 5 things add up to a possible score 100. We have, as of this morning, we already have about 940 applicants. We only accept 375. So overall, our enrollment is up. We're getting more and more people to apply. So it really, it's based on that. So it's what's called a blind admission. We're not allowed to look at whether or not they're special ed, whether or not they're needy, whether or not, it's just we have to go by that formula. Once we accept them, then we ask, is this child an ELL student or a special ed student or so forth, but that does not factor in at all neither does what community they come from. That's why you can see from one year to the other it fluctuate. But in Norton's case, you see it pretty much follows the enrollment trend for the town. I haven't seen a significant change in applications in my 10 years that I've been here.
Thank you.
What are your special ed costs? Do you have a ballpark idea what you have to?
No, not off the top of my head. I could probably.
Just out of curiosity, I know the town of Norton has.
It's high. It's now, yeah.
We're at
We get reimbursed based on 5.7% of our. Wait a minute. Let me get you the exact number here.
Is it gonna get fixed so people can hear it then?
We get reimbursed based on 4.75% special ed. We actually are closer to 18 to 20%. So that's one of those areas that is underfunded in the state budget. But clearly there's just not enough revenue. So I'm sure that's true for everyone. So
I'm looking at the the breakdown that new sheet you gave us this year. It's quite an eye opener actually when you look at it. Obviously, Brockton's getting the lion's share of state aid at 77%. East Bridgewater is probably the second. And then you get to the more affluent towns. Stoughton is probably and at 37%, Norton at 33%. And then it kind of drops off after that with Easton at 23, Foxborough at 16, Mansfield at 31%.
Yeah.
So the areas of the towns around here appear to be pretty much consistent as far as.
they are, yeah. You see, I mean, Sharon is in Foxborough are kind of the outliers there, and Brockton on the other end. But yeah, the rest of them, they're pretty close.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And overall in this area, the property values are going up. That's the good news. I mean, all 9 communities, the growth of the communities is outpacing the state average. So it's a great place to live. Your property values are going up and so forth. The income values of the residents are going up. The flip side of that is the state says, well, you don't need as much of our money. We all know that that's not true. We know that, that it's not like the decrease in enrollment is across, is in one grade. It's across all 12 grades. So you still need the same teachers and so forth. So
Sure.
So it's difficult.
School's still doing well, self-sufficient. You got plenty of. I understand you're running out of room over there to a certain extent.
Well, we're at capacity. We have and we did that really based on the enrollment projections in the communities we serve. And for us to when we build a renovation, for us to be bigger, just the demand, even though the demand wasn't there overall, the enrollment wasn't there. So the number of 8th grade applicants. So we felt we didn't want to increase and then have a really detrimental effect to the area high schools as well. So, but yeah, we have no room, but we don't anticipate on growing. But we're also in the swamp, so we can't even.
Yeah, I know. You are offering any new programs over there at all?
Our latest program to be approved was video and performing arts, which is very, very popular. And then before then, I think was the medical assistant and dental assistant tend to be very, very. In fact, the largest growth subgroup is female applicants.
Well,
Yeah, we're about 50-50 now.
Well, very good. Anyone else? Questions? Well, I appreciate you coming out and going over this, and obviously you guys do a great job over there and have done that for years, and I think we're getting a pretty good value for our dollar every time we send someone over that way, so we thank you for that. And obviously, if there's anything we can do to help you in any way, let us know.
Great.
And we appreciate you coming out tonight and going over this stuff.
Great. You're very welcome, and good luck with the rest of the budget process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Paul. We have Paul Vassell, Director of Business Development for Northeastern USA. He's here to talk to us tonight about LED street lighting and the conversion study that goes along with it. You want to grab that mic for him, maybe, Brad? Just grab that, yeah.
Take the whole.
Take the whole thing. Take it apart, it may never go back together again.
You might want to slide down
Yep.
to
Yep, we
view
can-
the screen, because I've got some slides which are different from the presentation
Okay.
to start with.
All right, we can do that.
Testing.
Oh, okay. Thanks for telling me.
As deaf as I am, I heard it.
So thanks for the opportunity to meet everybody and to talk a little bit about LED streetlights. Before I get started, I always like to ask communities, what are some of the things that are driving Norton to take a look at possibly converting your streetlights to LED?
Well, I'll let the town manager maybe get more involved in that. That's his responsibility. But my reason for asking you to come tonight was to see if we can update what we have, because obviously we don't own it. See what programs there are out there that we can take advantage of. We've recently taken advantage of some of the new solar farms, and the landfill now has, solar panels on it, which we're all very proud of, and it's generating some revenue for the town.
Right.
Just coming up with, just trying to see what else is out there, and if it's feasible for us to even look at something like this to see if it'll make sense for us cost-wise. I know the new LED technology today far exceeds anything else as far as longevity. They last a long time. Very low maintenance on them, that kind of stuff. And at the same time, curious about what, if any, grants are available and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But, Mike probably can give you more of an information as far as, what the cost is. We get a lot of requests for streetlights, and we've been trying to back off in recent years because the cost is getting to be a bit more than we expected. So, Mike, you want to add anything to it?
Just the main thing, obviously, would be cost savings. I don't understand why the legislature hasn't told National Grid by a certain date, convert all your lights over. So we shouldn't be burdened with this. They should be demanding that National Grid do it. We, as Bob said, just recently in February, the solar farm that was built on Hill Street, which we get our energy from them at 7 cents a kilowatt, kicked in. So we recently, for our February bill, received a credit of $27,000 on our. So we are saving on the cost of the energy because it's coming from the solar. But it would be nice if the lights were converted. The only concern is, obviously, and you can probably get into it in your presentation, is the cost of buying the infrastructure has got to be substantial. And then what do we have to add to our highway department to now be a light department, too?
Thank you. So yeah, typically those are primary drivers for considering an LED conversion. And I would add to that, if you're interested in promoting your image as a sustainable municipality, that often is another driver. And then also qualitatively, when you take a look at an LED conversion, I'll go into this in the presentation. You're not just looking at saving money and saving energy, but you're looking at improving security and improving the quality of your overall lighting. So those are the benefits that you can expect from this type of project. I'll walk you through first what should be an approach to doing one of these projects, whether you do it with us or whether you do it with somebody else, sort of educate everybody on what an LED conversion entails, and then I'll share with you the numbers and the analysis that we did based on the data that you gave us on what you could expect your particular project to look like. So I'll tell you a little bit about who we are. I'll tell you about the benefits of an LED conversion, walk you through a turnkey project, and then leave some time for any questions. So just a few words about us. We're a division of Real-Term Global. Real-Term Global is one of the leading owners and managers of on-airport infrastructure in North America. They've got about $3 billion of assets under ownership and management, and we are their energy arm. This is a little bit outdated. This is back in the summertime. Today, as we speak, we've done over 200 projects, over 200,000 fixtures deployed.
We've worked with, together with our partner George Woodbury, who's kind of an icon in the Massachusetts streetlight industry, about 85 municipalities in Massachusetts, to both help them acquire their fixtures from the utilities and then convert them to LED. We're a little bit unique in terms of a company in that this is all we do. The company is solely dedicated to municipal streetlight projects. We have 50 folks that manage each aspect of these projects. We've got a lot of experience with municipal associations here in Massachusetts with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. We were selected and awarded their second to last RFP, which was for the city of Brockton. So we're about 60% through that project in Brockton. We have a partnership with the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, and then in Ontario with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. We work quite a bit with electric utilities as well, not just municipalities. We're undergoing a project right now with the Holden Municipal Light Plant out near Worcester. And last year we were fortunate to be recognized by the World Bank. The program in Ontario, which is really what started the company, they had an RFP for a turnkey integrator to work throughout the province. And then they had a separate RFP for equipment, which was awarded to Cree. We were awarded that project, and since then it's become the largest program of its type in the world. And last year it was recognized sort of as a benchmark by the World Bank to replicate in other regions and other areas. So this is the program that I'll be walking you through. Obviously, you've got maintenance savings, significant maintenance savings when you move to LED. The failure rate on LED roadway fixtures is 0.6% per year. And when I show you the numbers, what your maintenance savings are likely to be with your current high-pressure sodium technology, it's really significant. Los Angeles has the largest and oldest deployment of LED fixtures, so we've got some data now going back several years, and they've actually come in underneath that 0.6% failure rate, as have we with our deployments. One of the benefits of undergoing an LED conversion project is like any other municipality, and everything I'm about to say applies to every project that we've done, there's not a municipality in North America that has a handle on what their inventory is. And the reason's quite simple. Your infrastructure, like everybody else's, dates back years and decades. Typically, when a light was replaced, often it was because of a storm or some sort of crisis event. The electric utility put in whatever they might have had in inventory at the time. Sometimes record keeping wasn't as it should be. So one of the benefits of this project is you're going to have an updated asset management database. You'll know exactly what you have and where you have it. Obviously, the environmental benefits, moving towards a more sustainable energy source and reducing significantly your carbon footprint. And then from a visibility and safety standpoint, again, like any other municipality, when these lights were put in and then replaced over time, there was no consideration for lighting design, proper lighting distribution. So you've got anomalies throughout the municipality, which we're going to try to rectify now as we convert your lights to more energy efficient LED, resulting in a safer municipality, better visual acuity, both for pedestrians as well as motorists. So we look at a turnkey conversion. These are the different steps, and I'll go through them. You have the GIS data collection, the photometric design, the investment grade audit, installation project management, billing changes, and then a final report. The data collection, over the years and over the hundreds of projects that we've done, we've developed this app. And the app was developed to be very user-friendly and to give you an accurate methodology to be able to collect all this information, which will then flow through the project. We're collecting a series of different attributes at each light post, starting with the fixture, what type of fixture, how many watts, what's the height of the pole, the length of the mast arm, the type of wiring, the offset from the curb, pedestrian conflict, the roadway width. All this information is really important when we move from this data collection phase into designing the proper lighting for the municipality. We add to that, and this is optional, this is a proprietary technology that we have called Lux Mapping, where we can actually drive the car similar to the way Google maps their streets. You have a GPS component and a lux meter, which is measuring foot candles, and it can tell you right off the bat where you might be overlit and underlit. Here's a sample. The green bars show you where the street is overlit, and the red lines show where it's underlit. So I'll walk you through a real-life project. It's a good way to see how things are done. This is one of the larger projects. London, Ontario has 34,000 streetlights. Your project is much smaller, but typically with a project this size, we divide it first into the major collector roads, then the local and the decoratives. So the first step was the major and the collector roads, about 10,000 lights. We deployed our field survey team, and these are the folks that are collecting all those attributes that I went over before. 2 people, represented in green and in blue. And they found a 15% discrepancy in data between the inventory that they had and what they actually had. That's on the high side. Typically, we'll find somewhere between 7 and 10% errors between the inventory that the utility tells you have and what you actually have. So very important step, especially when you're acquiring those lights. You want to make sure that you're acquiring the assets that you actually have and want to own. So now we move into the design phase. You can see you've got irregular spacing between the poles. Over time, you've had construction, you've had alleyways, parking lots, other facilities that have come in, and nobody really planned for that. And so you've got different spacing between your lights, and that spacing results in irregular lighting. So we take all that data that we've collected, and it gets transferred over to our design team. We've got 3 full-time in-house designers, and they're designing to what's called RP 814. The roadway standards in the U.S. are guided by the IES, which is the Roadway Association, and they've developed these standards which address things like what they call bug, backlighting, uplighting, glare, and uniformity. All these characteristics are really important to give you the proper lighting on your roadways. So here's the final installation map when we get finished. We're actually reducing and simplifying your inventory. This project started off with 7 different types of HID fixtures and ended up with only 4 types. So you've got lower inventory costs, but you have 18 different LED fixture settings, and that's why you see the different colors. All the Tier 1 manufacturers that we would consider for a project have the ability to set the lighting levels on each fixture. So you can dial down the lighting and the wattage to the proper level that you need on a particular street without having to have 18 different types of inventory. So these first two steps then end up in, in this report, which we call an investment grade audit. It's called that because the accuracy of the calculations and the design are such that you can take this document and get financing with it. Whether you're looking for bond finance, tax-exempt lease, and we can talk a little bit about different options, or an energy performance contract where there's zero cash outlay, and we take on ownership of the project and transfer it over to you after the savings have paid for it. You have different ways that you can address the financing of the project, but this is the report that will help you get there. Interaction with a client is really critical. When I say the client, your clients are your constituents and your stakeholders. You've got the public service, the public works people. You've got the police department. You've got constituents. You want to make sure that there's communication and interaction with the appropriate people so that people have their input and you're getting the correct type of lighting that addresses different departments' concerns, whether it be snow removal from Public Works or security from the police department. Project management, this is kind of where the rubber meets the road, and this is where we can really pick up efficiencies and savings on the deployment of these lights. Staging and logistics for installation. I'll give you an example. There have been a bunch of municipalities when they approach these projects, they've got the different types of lights, different wattages. And so they thought, well, it's going to be easier and more cost effective. We're going to deploy all the 50-watt fixtures first, then we'll do all the 70-watt fixtures with no concern for staging and geographic deployment. So they're deploying all over the city, then they move up to a different type of fixture. And what they're doing is they're causing disruption all over the municipality several times over. We think it makes much more sense to do it in a staged fashion. We do sector by sector. We try to minimize traffic disruption. And also from your standpoint, you can show people, hey, we've just done this section of the municipality. Look, we move on to the next section. It's a smarter way to approach it, and it's a more cost-effective way as well, because you've got costs in flaggers, and sometimes police detailing. So doing it that way, you're optimizing or minimizing the amount of flaggers and police detailing that you need. Health and safety is something that we don't compromise on. We'll only work with a local contractor that has the appropriate OSHA health record. Traffic management, we coordinate with the municipality. Environmental management is critical. Make sure that all the old components are recycled according to local, state, and federal rules. And then final inspection. Community outreach. 2 nights ago, I participated in an open house session in the village of Great Neck in New York. There's been some press recently. I don't know if anybody's followed. There was an AMA report that came out a few months ago that caused a bit of a stir in the lighting industry, making some claims about the potential negative health impact of LED streetlights. There were a lot of rebuttals to that report and a lot of science that came out since then. The bottom line, like any technology, it all comes down to common sense. What's your exposure to a streetlight? Are you getting more or less exposure from that streetlight than you're getting from your handheld device, your television? These lights, the sun and the moon, all lights emit blue light. It's a question of exposure and how you manage it. So we're not here to tell municipalities what type of lighting and what degree of lighting they should have. This is a personal decision for each municipality, but we're here to give you guidelines, share the science with you, and figure out, what's the best lighting mix both for aesthetics, safety, and health concerns. So on the community outreach, there's several different options for you to deploy in one of these projects, going from an open house to press releases, website updates. We'll assist you in putting out FAQs, so to try to get out in front of potential questions from the constituents and providing them with answers to their questions. Hey, what's this project look like? What are the costs of this project? What's the timing? What's going to be the disruption? What are some of these health effects that I've been reading about, and what are you doing to mitigate against those problems? These are the sorts of things that we support municipalities on. Very important. A lot of these projects have failed because municipalities have not involved their constituents in some of the decisions. And then finally, the commissioning and the final report. I'll move now to the study that we did for you, which you all have a copy of. And we'll go right to the executive summary. So we ran the study based on the inventory that you provided us with 674 Cobra head fixtures and 70 decorative fixtures, 19 floodlights. We ran an analysis, and this is a preliminary analysis. It's not the final study, and the fixtures that we use for the analysis may not be the final fixtures that we would select for the project, but it gives you a pretty good idea on what cost and savings you could expect from an LED conversion. The warranties on these fixtures, just like any of the Tier 1 manufacturers that we would consider, are full 10 years. The estimated project cost is $394,000, giving you a simple payback of 3.7 years. We're applying the Mass Save National Grid incentive of $47,000. The utilities in Massachusetts under the Mass Save program are offering a rebate, an incentive equivalent to 30 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's how we did that calculation. In addition to that, there was recently another incentive which came out by the Massachusetts DOER, which would provide you an additional 30% rebate. Now, my understanding is that there's a queue right now of municipalities that have applied for that rebate. I don't know exactly where it stands, but I could find out for you if you're interested. That grant flows through the MAPC, the entity that I referred to before, with whom we did the Brockton project. So they're managing the grant for all the municipalities, and I can find out for you where it stands, if those monies are still available. If they are available, that would be an additional savings on top of the numbers that I calculated. I prefer to be conservative because I'm not sure if they're available, but you could potentially reduce the capital cost of the project if there are more grant funds available. By the way, in addition to the turnkey services which I went over before, we manage the rebates, we manage the incentives, we manage the billing changes. So we'll sit down with National Grid, and once the conversion takes place, we'll make sure that they apply the appropriate billing changes, both with the change of number of fixtures as well as the change of the wattage of the fixtures. Here's a summary of the inventory, broken down by wattage and consumption. Here's a visual summary of the current lighting inventory. You can follow this in the printout. We're on page 7. And these are the proposed LED replacements. So you've got 490 50-watt Cobra heads today. That would be replaced by 27-watt LED for energy savings of 59%. Your 100-watt fixtures could be reduced to 43 watts. That's a 79% savings. And then overall on the bottom, you see on the bottom right, last column, average savings of 66%, which is very much in line with what we're seeing with all the other projects we're doing in Massachusetts. These are the savings with your floodlights and your decorative fixtures, similar, about 61% savings. The calculations and the analysis that we did was based on what's called a one-for-one replacement. One-for-one means for every 50 watts, we replace it with the same wattage replacement. In reality, though, if we take on the project, we're going to be applying the design-based solution, and typically you're picking up an extra 10 to 15% life cycle cost savings as you go from a simple one-for-one to design-based, because we're dialing down and we're optimizing the correct wattage based on design for each street. So these are the savings numbers. Today you're consuming just north of 312,000 kilowatt hours a year. Following the conversion, that goes down to 109,000 kilowatt hours. Your annual electricity costs today are 114,000. That goes down to 19,000. You see zero on the pre-upgrade maintenance cost. That's because National Grid embeds that in their service tariff to you, so there's no way to break it out. So what we did was we calculated what your estimated maintenance cost is going to be following the upgrade based on the failure rates, which I talked to you about before, so about $5,000 a year, lowering your annual operating costs between energy and maintenance by about 78%. If you're like most municipalities, your streetlights are representing about 1/3 of your energy costs in the municipality. So we're talking about reducing 1/3 of your energy costs by 78%. A significant impact on your overall budget. This is what it looks like in a graphic form, both the reduction in energy as well as the annual operating cost. And then broken down to savings. DUT means design, upgrade, and transfer. Okay, these are the net project costs after the rebate. Again, not assuming the additional DOER rebate with a fixture price of $455. What we didn't do, because we don't have the number yet, we don't have your number from National Grid on what they're going to charge you to buy back the streetlights. Have you made a request from the utility to buy them back? Okay. That would be the next step. It doesn't cost you anything, and it would be an important number for you to have and for us to have, so we have the overall project cost figures. Once we get that number, we'll redo these calculations and incorporate that number and show you how it impacts the overall project cost and the overall payback. If you decide that you'd like to work with us, the first thing that we'll do is we'll assist you in that acquisition project. I mentioned George. George Woodbury was the first represented the first municipality in Massachusetts to buy back their fixtures from the electric utility. He was the DPW director of Lexington, Mass. Back in the early 2000s, and helped the state write the legislation which today now mandates that electric utilities must sell their streetlights back to municipalities. George later worked with the states of Maine, Rhode Island, New York, and 11 other states in the U.S. to do the same thing. He's really one of the foremost experts on helping municipalities get a fair deal on buying back their streetlights, and he'll be your advocate if we work together. He'll go over the numbers, because typically the utility is going to come back with a high number. They don't tend to be very generous when it comes to these calculations, and we'll make sure that they adhere to the regulations on how you calculate depreciation, how you calculate net book value, make sure that those numbers are in line with the law. So that's pretty much just the rest of the report. I kind of went over before what the approach to the project is and sort of best practices. Again, whether you work with us or whether you work with somebody else, I strongly urge you to go about this project in a careful way. Make sure that you're taking a look at improving your overall lighting by using the proper lighting design. Make sure that you're going to improve the safety and security of your streets as you contemplate this. It's a project you're going to do once every 20 years, so you might as well take advantage of it and try to improve your overall lighting.
Okay. Well, I think, first and foremost, thank you for coming, bringing this information. This is, to me, it's very informative. I think it's kind of an eye-opener. I had no idea we had 674 lights in town to begin with. What's our annual cost, Mike, now on the...
I didn't bring that with me.
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, I know
It's
it's...
in the report, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I showed you that number before. It's
Well, we pay for each, my understanding is we pay for each unit that we kind of rent from the utility.
you're paying $114,000 a year right now for your streetlights, and that number goes down to $19,000 if you convert.
So on our rate of return, based on what we're doing here right now, on our payback, if the numbers stay the same as they are now, it'd be about 3.7 years.
3.7 years, again, without including what the acquisition cost will be.
What do you see as an acquisition cost normally from a?
You know, the numbers are really quite varied depending on what the state and the age of your infrastructure is. But typically in Massachusetts, we're seeing costs of somewhere between $80 and $120 per streetlight.
Okay. And to Mike's earlier point, you know, I guess I don't understand why the state hasn't mandated that companies like yourself go out there and change these fixtures and make the utility companies do it themselves. This is another opportunity, though, for us over a very short period of time to get reimbursed and pay back. I'm not concerned so much about the upkeep, and other than somebody taking out a telephone pole and there's a light on it, that kind of stuff that's going to come up. As you say, some of the the issues where you're going to have failure on some of them anyway. But we're in a unique situation here in Norton. We have two municipal light services on both sides of us. We have one in Mansfield. We have one in Taunton. They have their own equipment. They have all that stuff. We don't have to reinvent anything. We don't have to create another arm of a department or anything of that sort. All we really need to do is work out a simple arrangement with a neighboring community that already has the stuff that we need, and say, look, if we have a problem, do an RFP or whatever, and say if we need help on a yearly basis, what would you charge us to do
For
the
maintenance,
work?
yeah.
Especially sandwiched between two of them.
That's great.
That makes it a big advantage to us. So.
It's one of the services that we offer, whether you work with your neighbors or we go out and we try to find a third party to take over the maintenance from National Grid. We'll put together the maintenance program for you. We'll put together the bid package for you and make sure that you're getting the right sort of service levels that you need for the streetlights.
Okay.
You can fully anticipate those maintenance costs to go down precipitously.
Yeah. Any questions, anybody? I mean, are we interested in continuing to have, maybe have the town manager work with them to see if this is cost feasible for us or not? I mean, what's your thoughts?
Until we know what the buyout figure is
Yeah.
from National Grid. That's the deciding factor on how long it's going to take to recoup this.
Yeah, you need to know that number. But by the way, if you decide to finance it, and I'll mention a few of the financing options. One of them is an energy performance contract where the energy savings actually pays off the assets, so typically over 7 to 10 years. So you have no capital outlay, and once the assets are paid off, they're transferred over to you. A version of that, an iteration of that, is the tax-exempt lease. So a lot of municipalities are opting for. Again, no cash outlay necessary. The lease payments essentially are financed by the savings, but it's a non-appropriation, so you have to vote on it every year. Rates that we're seeing from municipalities with solid credit ratings for tax-exempt leases have been in the 2.5% range, so reasonable financing. And you can roll in the cost of the acquisition of the infrastructure into that leasing arrangement. So again, it really takes the burden off from a budgetary perspective to do this sort of capital improvement project. The reason why it's so simple to finance is that streetlights are a non-metered service. So in order to calculate the savings, you simply take the wattage of the fixture and multiply it by the hours of usage. We know what the savings is going to be. Whatever financial institution helps to finance this knows what the savings is going to be. So it's very easy to finance. It's a highly predictable energy savings measure project.
LED lighting, from what I've seen, I've noticed that in recent years, the life of an LED bulb is a lot longer than what we're using today.
So
As they get older, do they use more power like the bulbs we use, or?
they don't, but their efficiencies, like any other light, goes down over time. Typically, they're getting to 70% of their lumen per watt capacity after 100,000 hours of usage, which is, your lights are on typically 7 nights a week, 12 hours a night, and that gives you 23.9 years of usage to get to 70% capacity. They still have a 70% after those 23.9 years. So the degradation and the life of LED lights is quite long. Some people say, how do we know? They haven't been out for 23.9 years. Well, all we can do is do calculations based on the oldest deployments, which, as I mentioned before, Los Angeles is the oldest, largest deployment in the U.S., and their degradation has been less than what the manufacturer's stipulated degradation is. So it looks pretty accurate. Looks good.
So,
Mr. Chairman, I have 3 outdoor pole lights that has 4 60-watt bulbs in. Every year I change them, probably once a year, like changing your clock. I switched over to LEDs 3 years ago. Their bulbs are $7 a piece, and they're still lit. And they say it's a 7-year life expectancy of these bulbs. I spent a lot of money, but I'll tell you, they're still lit. And it's a huge difference, and it's just an illumination from changing those bulbs.
And the bulbs that you changed out have, if they're like most of them, they probably have a 50,000 hour life cycle. The other important aspect about LED lights is, if you've seen them before, an LED light is giving you the light exactly where you need it. They're highly directed. As opposed to the lights that you have right now, you've got a lot of spillover. You've got a lot of light going up into the atmosphere. You've got a lot of backlight coming into people's windows. So it's another advantage, another qualitative advantage that you pick up when you move over to LED technology. It's really a much more efficient way of lighting your streets.
I think the process that you talked about, where you drive around the town and look at where the hot spots are and where it's red and where it's green. I can think of sections here in Norton right now that in my opinion, have too many streetlights, but they have to be there. I mean, there's a reason for them being there right in this area, for the most part, near the college, near our schools. So as you guys, if you guys did this survey, and you found the extra, let's say you suddenly decide you're going to knock off a few of these extra lights, so we could use those probably in another area where the red shows up. Is that how you guys, was that the recommendation you guys make, or how's that work?
So typically, the goal of this whole process is to try to optimize your existing infrastructure. Now, a lot of folks come back to us and say, "Hey, look, we're not looking at spending an extra $100,000 to put up new poles." That's not the goal. We're taking a look at each post in each street, and we're figuring out, with your existing infrastructure, how do we optimize that light? So it might mean, in some instances, increasing the wattage rather than decreasing it. If we show that you're severely underlit in an intersection where safety is absolutely critical and you cannot sacrifice lumens on the ground, we'll sit down with you and we'll go over the options. Maybe we just increase the wattage. Maybe we put up another mast arm to give you the sort of coverage that you really need. So that's the exercise. We try to optimize your existing infrastructure, but with your feedback. None of this is done in the dark, so to speak. Every step of this project is done in collaboration with the municipality. So we're looking not just at your present lighting needs, but we're looking towards the future. We're doing a project in South Portland. They've got a business park planned for 2018. Total different usage of that street and that area of South Portland, which is going to require a different type of lighting. So it'd be silly for us to try to design for today's lighting knowing there's going to be a business park a year from now. So these are the types of conversations we have with you. You know, what are your concerns? What are your plans? Where are the hot spots? University, obviously, schools, important intersections. Those are particular sections where we pay attention to from a safety and security standpoint. And then lastly, I'm going to mention something. Again, we're not here to sell you technology. We're here to work with you to try to solve problems. Some municipalities are solving problems with what they call smart city solutions. So the lights that we're going to be deploying will be future-proof, which means it has a 7-pin receptacle, and at some point in the future, if you wish to layer on smart controls on top of those lights, you won't have to redo the lighting. The smart controls give you the ability now to dim and to trim those lights. You can go online and take a look at the example of Cambridge. Cambridge has deployed smart controls now, and they've decided that at midnight, they reduce their lighting and lumens by 50%. You can also integrate safety features. There's a blue button similar to what you probably have on campus here down the road, where you can have an app on your cell phone, and if somebody has a security issue, if you've got the smart control network on your lights, they press the blue button and the lights start going on and off, or they increase in intensity, and that's connected with the police department. All sorts of really interesting applications, which I'm not trying to sell to you, but at some point in time, they may become affordable, and they may become cost-effective, and you'll have a system which won't cost you anymore, but which will be future-proof. Okay. Be ready for those different types of technologies.
It is changing all the time.
EV charging stations.
Yeah.
You'll be able to plug your car into a street light. Different uses of the, if you're looking at acquiring these assets from National Grid, I just want you to know that those assets are going to have value moving forward for different types of services that you can overlay on them once you take ownership.
Any questions?
Sounds good.
Anything? I'd ask, did you work with Town Manager Mike Units a bit more?
Okay.
Just a bit more information. We'll get you what you need also. Contact National Grid and find out what the buyback cost would be. Kind of put it all together again so we can get an idea. See if that other grant is available.
I'll follow up with MAPC and see if,
find out what that
see
is.
if there's room there.
Obviously, we're looking at, we're financially strapped like most communities are today. We're not looking at making a major investment, but if we can get the program up and running and with the future cost savings, and not only that, but as you indicated, having the ability to add to the lighting. I was reading an article the other day about the day may come when automobiles will run off lighting, will run off electricity. It's already in the area. And just think about the possibility of that, something like that coming up in the future. So, you know, I think it's a changing world in this category. Our streetlights are in terrible shape, and there's no question about it. You drive out to town now, you see the different shades. You know, the luminous is not the same no matter where you go. The bulbs are older. We do pay a flat rate for every one of them that we have, but we have been unable to add any streetlights for a number of years. And then on top of that, you've got new development coming into town where we could say, okay, you want to build this development, you want us to pay for your streetlights, well, these are the type of lights we want to have installed.
Sure.
And we don't have to work with the utility companies to figure out how we're going to do it. So there are some advantages of owning them ourselves. And again, as far as repair and cost, I'm not as concerned about that. I had a conversation with one of my fellow selectmen the weekend we met you up in Boston. And I said to him, what would happen if we decided to go in the streetlight business? You guys have the equipment and all that stuff. He said, oh, yeah, definitely we could help you with it. I mean, I think that's out there. I think we can take advantage of what they already own and take care of it, you know,
Sure.
have our own equipment. And like a storm takes them down, or if an accident of any sort, yeah, obviously we have to have stock, you know, to replace them. And I don't know if that's covered under insurance as a municipality. I don't know how that works. We'd have to look into that. But, you know, if we have one of our neighbors willing to work with us, then I think that's half the battle.
And yeah, it's great. It's a great way to approach
Yeah.
it.
Just have one question.
Sure.
If this was all approved by us, what would be how long would the switchover take? Approximately a year or so, or?
Less, actually. So, yeah, I'll walk you through step by step. The GIS audit, which is the first step, gathering all the data and whatnot, would take about a week. Once we have that audit done, then we review it with yourselves and with National Grid, make sure that we get the final inventory correct. That takes about another week or so. The design process, typically for 763 lights, will take about 3 weeks or so. Then we produce the IGA report, takes another 2 weeks. You approve it. Procurement. Procurement's the one part of a project that we don't have any control over because the supply chains and the demand for streetlights is a moving target. Today, delivery on LED roadway fixtures is about 8 to 10 weeks. And installation for this size project, we're looking at 2 weeks. So 10 plus 2 plus 5 plus 3 plus 2, 6 months this project is done, soup to nuts.
Thank you.
You did Brockton. For this process, did they do an RFQ or an RFP? Do you know?
So Brockton did it in a different way. We have because we went through the MAPC. Brockton wanted to have control over the bids for both the installation as well as the fixtures. And we can do it that way if you like. What I'm proposing is a turnkey where we manage the entire project from soup to nuts. We're not a fixture manufacturer, so I'm not married to any particular technology. When we go through the selection process, we put together a bid specification document, and then we pick the right lights for your municipality. Likewise, on the install side, we have certain criteria, obviously, in terms of quality, crews that are available, knowledge of the local grid, certification of linemen that are certified by National Grid. But that's also a competitively bid process. So the formula that we're working with most of the Massachusetts municipalities is one where we're managing the fixtures, we're managing the installation as a project manager, and then all of the other components of the project we do internally, the GIS audit, the design, the commissioning. And we can do it one of two ways. Obviously, if we're financing it, it's open book and everything's transparent. But even if you're financing it, if you prefer, we can work on a transparent, open book, cost-plus basis. A lot of municipalities like it. They know exactly what the numbers are. We have nothing to hide. We have very reasonable margins within the industry. So whether we work with lump sum or open book, we can present to you different options and whatever you feel comfortable with.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Well, thanks, Paul. I really appreciate you coming down, and we will be in touch. And like I said, just work with Mike Units, and we'll get to the additional information you're looking for, and we'll take it from there.
Great. Thanks for the time. And
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So next on the agenda, we have a review and/or vote on the Norton Media Center memorandum of understanding regarding coverage of live public meetings. It's their units.
In your packet, you have a flyer from Norton Media Center, and Brad and I will be meeting with them this Tuesday,
This Tuesday?
right?
Well,
The
No,
28th, right? Is that this
It'll
Tuesday?
be this coming Tuesday, yeah.
Okay, it's March 28th. The email you sent me was April
Oh.
28th. I was going to say, wow, that got pushed.
Okay. This Tuesday, so we'll talk to them about this. I think the main thing here, my concern with this that I need clarification on, like the other night, we're over in the library.
Yeah.
So obviously, that is covered by Norton Media Center. I think the big thing with this is what they're trying to say is when there's a large town meeting and the high school wants many rooms equipped with both sound and visual, that they don't want to pay for that. They want us to, whoever, to pay for that, not them, so.
Yeah, we definitely should look into it. I mean, we do have a very large expectation on a very large town meeting could be coming up very soon, may or may not, but we have to plan for it anyway. We've looked at a couple of other options as far as trying to find other major facilities we could utilize. And one we looked at was the Xfinity Center to see if we could put a couple thousand people over there and televise it from there. And there's one drawback, it's in a different town. In the Commonwealth, you have to have your town meeting in the town you reside in. So one of those little things you never much think about. But we do have other options in town. We could look at the, was it the Haas Building, Wheaton College, which will hold quite a few people. It'll hold a couple thousand anyway. I went to when President Crutcher came in, I went to his inauguration over there, and there was huge facility, with plenty of room. So rather than go to the cost of, saying, putting together separate camera systems and audio and all that, maybe we take that expense instead, we run buses, that we bus people onto the campus and different parking lots. We're going to have to start thinking about that in the future if we continue to have an open town meeting forum of government, so. Too late to do anything like that now, but, might have to do something in the future. But I definitely would like to hear what they have to say about it. And I don't expect them to all have this, expect them to absorb all the costs. But, part of what they do, I think, is to help us in situations where we need additional coverage. So you get back to us on that, Mike?
Yep.
And Brad, you get back and let us know how you make out.
Mr. Chairman,
As long as we both meet over there.
Get the right one.
I have just a comment while we're talking about it. I mean, we were informed earlier that people can't hear us at home tonight live. We got a very few busy months coming up in the future here about, our override going possibly through and, changes that going through the town. I think it's very important that people sit home on Thursday nights waiting to hear us. I was informed that possibly they're going to be able to hear us on the reruns. I don't think that's fair to the people at home that want to hear us tonight speak. So, we need to address this issue rapidly.
And something else I'd like to have addressed is Obviously, this room is too small for meetings when we have something important like the other night with the planning board was in the library, and we have to find out why the library can't go live, and we've got to work on getting that done. Because we have a number of meetings. I know planning and zoning end up over there quite often with big meetings, and it really should be coming live out of there, so we got to work on finding that out also.
But to Mr. Seller's point, when we've had this complaint before, we shouldn't have to worry about, you know, we keep talking about transparency right now. You know, how many people are at home saying and watching the screen and they can't hear a word we're saying and
Cursing at us.
wondering what we're saying, and, you know, I mean, it's important that we have the ability to do that, so. I hope you guys, the two of you, will look into, you know, some of our concerns also about this and see if we can do something about it.
I mean, if it's our responsibility, Mr. Chairman, I don't know what the media has to do with the equipment that we have, but if it's our responsibility to upgrade and make it better for ourselves, I think we need to make the change. But if they're responsible for the equipment and make it go out, I think they need to make the change ASAP.
I agree.
Thank you.
Anything else about that? Brad will put the squeeze on, right, Brad?
When arm wrestle, Brad?
Right after I get done talking about my cable TV bill, that'll be the next item.
I'm going to send you mine, too.
Next meeting.
Okay. So under old business, we have to discuss and vote the draft of the May 8th, 2017 Spring Annual Town Meeting. We're going to hold that off until the next meeting, so we can get some additional information. And Town Manager's report. The units?
Yeah, just on 8 Kayak Trail, you know, the affordable home that is for sale. I sent some information out to all the town employees the other day, because some of them had new people that they thought were interested in purchasing that house that may meet the income guidelines. And also, at my home consortium meeting held this week, anyone looking to buy that house can get up to $10,000 first-time home buyers. So it's not just that house, but any house. But if someone was a first-time home buyer, they can get $10,000 to help them with their down payment and closing costs, which may help some people get over the edge to be able to buy a house. And that money, if you stay in the house for 5 years, it's forgiven. You don't have to pay that back. So it's a pretty good thing to take advantage of. And if anyone hears this on the replay, they can call Pro Home at 508-821-2514 if they're thinking of buying a house and they're a first-time home buyer. I know they have classes you have to attend as a first-time home buyer, I think, in order to receive the money, but it'd be well worth it for someone who's a first-time home buyer.
Okay.
And just an update, you've probably seen the signs that the water department is about to start flushing the water mains. They're going to begin this Sunday, March 26th. And this is their semi-annual water main and hydrant flushing program. They do it in the spring and the fall. And there's 1,000 hydrants, and they'll be done between 7 p.m. and 3 a.m. And there may be, if issues develop, there may be daytime flushing also if people call in and the rusty water isn't going away and they have to go out and do some flushing in certain neighborhoods. So there may be some of that also. They're going to start at the eastern town line and they'll proceed westerly towards the Attleboro town line. So
If anyone has the ability to do so, every spring I now flush my hot water tank out. And there's a certain way to do it. Don't just get down there and put a hose to it and run it out, but you can burn out your elements if you have an electric one, and you have to be careful how you do it, but you follow the instructions. I can tell you every year I do it, the water comes out black at first from the bottom of the tank, and I have 2 tanks. So because I have that solar hot water on my roof. And I have to drain them every year, but it does help a bit. Some of this brown water that you're finding in your system could actually be in your hot water tank. So keep that in mind too. I wouldn't do it until after they flush them. And, you know, get all that sediment out of your system as best you can. It's just another opportunity.
And they do go on further on that. It says this process allows us to flush out iron and manganese particles. However, it also creates discolored water. Discoloration varies from pale yellow to dark brown and may include iron particles. Because the water system's infrastructure is a continuous loop, this discoloration can occur anywhere in the system during the flushing program, regardless of where the hydrants are being opened. So therefore, it is recommended that you use caution when using filtering systems, washing machines, dishwashers, etc. Bottling water and keeping it on hand for your convenience is also suggested.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Salvo.
To you, Mike, could you ask Bernie if, I know we have a, what do you call it? Reverse callback to people, like when there's a school does it for announcements, et cetera, et cetera?
We're putting that, the school does, we're putting that in place next year.
Okay. I'm just saying, if we're in that area, are they gonna be flushing?
Right.
They could give the homeowners a notice by a phone call. I mean, we're flushing tonight, so they don't end up waking up to a cup of tea, you know? So next year, they'll be able to do that? Thank you.
Just one question. I saw the sign down near Bernie and Phil's. It made me think, does the water department have the capability of scoping the water lines? Putting a camera in?
I don't know if they have the capability, if they bring someone in, I don't think they have it.
I was just wondering if they had, because they do all this flushing to clear it out. It might be nice if they use the camera to show a before and after almost, to show people this is why we do it. And not only that, to see if some of the problem areas are getting completely flushed. Not just open up a hydrant and let it run until the water looks clear.
Maybe they can't do it because they can't see through clear water anyway. Too muddy,
But no, I just thought,
all the time.
we're kind of, we have this rusty water twice a year at least, and we're telling people it's to clear the line. It might be a good visual thing to show people,
Yeah.
look at the sediment that was here, and then we flushed the line and it cleaned it out. So I didn't know if they had the capability themselves. Something that I figured I might ask Bernie if I saw him.
Yeah, ask them.
On the electricity aggregation, just wanted to let you know that our contract will be coming up in January 2018, so we've begun the process right now, getting ready to go out to bid again with all the communities that are involved in this through SERPED, and see what kind of rates we can get for the future. So that process has begun. Just an update on the special election. 3 candidates have pulled papers so far for the special election. And there's 2 sessions coming up on the override. And I wanted to emphasize, as when I announced this, that these are information sessions, so if people have some questions, they can come and ask questions. It's not a debate session. I'm just here to give people information. If people that are for the override and people that are against the override want to get together somewhere and have a debate, whether they go to the cable access studio or whatever, they can do that. But these sessions are not for people to come and start debating yes or no. It's information. They can come and they can ask us, so they can have information to go debate wherever they want to debate. But this isn't a debate session. And the sessions are going to be held, 2 sessions. One will be Monday, April 3rd, and one will be Wednesday, April 12th. They'll both be at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium. And
You make sure that's on the bulletin board.
yes, and we have it on our sign out here.
Okay.
And
Mr. Bramwell?
On that, kind of on the override topic, I got a call this evening about how much the override was going to cost, and I thought we were going to post that on the town website.
Okay.
And I directed the person, and I happened to be at the computer, and I couldn't find anything.
We'll,
I-
we'll,
it
we'll
seemed to
get
me
it on
Was it 98 cents?
98 cents, yeah.
I said I thought it was 98 cents a thousand, but if we could post that, and it's easy for people to find, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, sure. And I did get notice from the EPA that they've obtained an ex parte warrant for access to the Reed and Barton property. So on Tuesday, the 28th, they're going to have a site walk, and they're going to have their technical contractors on site March 31st. And they're planning to do a site investigation during the week of April 10th. So they are out there being proactive to find out what is on site.
We are going to make sure that we keep an eye on that project, and there's no way that we, the selectmen, can put ourselves in a position where we acquire that property. We've been very vocal about that. We don't want to inherit somebody else's problems because it's going to could cost a lot of money to fix it. So I do have that information, Brad, that you asked for on the override. We'll make sure we get it online. But it's roughly about $1.
Well, I thought I had remembered the 98.
98 cents.
It's 98 cents. And then if you have a $250,000 home, it's going to cost you $245 a year. $300,000 home, $294, $350, $350,000 home, $343, $400,000 home, $392, $450,000 home, $441, and a $500,000 home, about $490. So it's roughly like $1, dollar per thousand. So, but we'll get that information out there so people can see it.
I have it someplace, but I couldn't find the right pile.
I just happened to trip over it myself over here. So. Okay, appointments and resignations. I don't believe we have any. Selectmen's report and mail. Mr. Salvo?
Just have a comment back on Reed and Barton property. I actually drove by there yesterday afternoon and noticed the roof shingles were actually blowing off in the road on Cross Street. We had a heavy windstorm yesterday. So, this now it's going to be leaking, so just beware. So, having that.
I'm very concerned about that thing catching on fire. If that thing goes up in flames, it's going to take a lot more than Norton to put it out. And it's an old building, and again, I don't know if we have any way of insisting that. My understanding is the power is now off, which means we're not monitoring, any kind of fire equipment over there. And, it's a very dangerous situation, and I don't know if we could take any kind of action. There's no owner really on record right now. The company that was there before, Eureka, are they completely out of business, or
I don't know where they are.
were they bought out by something? I mean, we should find
I
out
mean,
if
it was owned by Reed and Barton.
Reed and Barton.
And they declared bankruptcy.
So they're liquidated and gone, as far as you know?
Yeah,
Okay.
this was their last property that they weren't able to sell.
Scary stuff.
I mean, I'm sure the fire department has some sort of direction on how they're going to handle this, but, just think of, in any given day, depending on the wind, it could be a massive evacuation in the area just from the exposure of inside that building. The fire department has, breathing apparatus to not suck in a lot of that, but the people that live around there don't, and you just don't know.
And it's not just around that area. It can travel quite a distance.
Absolutely.
Especially if you have a building that does not have any kind of monitoring system on it right now. Is the water on? I think the water's off, too.
Yep.
So if there's any kind of sprinkler system in it, that's not going to happen. That thing at 1 o'clock in the morning could be fully engulfed in flame before first responders even get to it, and all hell's going to break loose. You've seen a couple recently on
Rockland just had a bunch
TV,
of fire.
where these things just go up and they're extremely dangerous.
Rockland, that burned.
So I don't know, is there any action we can take against, what do we do?
And in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, but if we were to pay for electricity
I know.
or pay for monitoring.
Right.
You can't do it.
We're hooking ourselves
Exactly.
That-
into ownership.
That's why we would not, EPA wanted us to say it was okay for them to go on the property. We said, we don't, we have no ownership of that property. You get permission from the owners, and they obviously couldn't, so they had to go to court to gain access. So we don't even want that responsibility.
We have had this conversation before about turning the water back on or putting power to the building, and if we do that, we're
You got liability.
yeah, we're now taking on the responsibility.
Who's on the books? Is it the bank, the bankruptcy bank that owns it? Or we really don't know?
They just dumped it.
So nobody knows. It's just abandoned.
Just abandoned.
It's abandoned, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any way of putting like a fire detector or something on an adjacent telephone pole that's off-site? That, I don't know the technology. If there could be something that could pick up like heat or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the thing that I mean, I'm not saying we spend any money, and it's very, very less cost efficient to do this, is to, especially on a pole over there, is to have a camera there that can be monitored by communications 24 hours a day. And they'd be the first one to see any activity going on there at night, but that'd be the only way. And, you do a wireless camera there or something cheap. I mean, just for our own protection of our fire department, public safety, and our citizens.
I mean,
Do we have an opinion from town council about if we have any recourse with anybody? Have we asked them?
We did.
Okay.
I know I brought that a while
Yeah, you
back.
did so long time ago, yeah. I think it's a good idea, if nothing else.
I mean, I would
Cameras,
think,
better than nothing.
I would think as long as we're not on their property,
Right.
Yeah.
that we're monitoring a neighborhood.
And we did Martin filed bankruptcy in February 2015.
15, huh?
Yep.
Thank you, Peter.
Welcome, Bob.
Okay. Anything else on the report? Anybody? I just want to bring up something briefly. I went down to, we went to Wheaton College this morning, and their community forum that they're trying to put together. And good thing I put it on my calendar, but I would have forgot. But it was on there. And they were talking about the different programs that they offer. It's mostly through their music department and through their, their drama and all that. And it's amazing the programs that they work with. And I think what I was really surprised about was the amount of involvement that they work with us through our school system, and how many seniors go over there and participate. They have a band that they have over there, the Great Woods Symphony Orchestra. It's not only students from the college, it's people from the community and high school students are all playing in these bands. And the one thing that Wheaton doesn't do a good show, they don't do well on, is promoting what's coming up in the future about their, some of the programs that they're offering. And we talked briefly about that today. We talked about a community calendar. And I understand we have one of those somewhere. Well, could you reach out to college and let them know where that is? Because it's on our website, right?
Well, we have a calendar on the town website that lists all the town events.
Because they have a lot of events coming up. A lot of them are free. And there's others that, it's not a lot of money, and they're amazing how many different programs they're offering. And I just think we need to do a better job, and they need to do a better job promoting. We need to do a better job of helping them get the word out to people. But there's a lot of really, really neat stuff going on over there.
There's a student from Wheaton who I've been in contact with, and he's coming in Monday, actually, who's working with me on the townwide cleanup day. And he's doing that as a project at Wheaton and organizing teams over there to help out on the townwide cleanup day.
Nice. So
hopefully we can get someone from the high school to organize teams over there too. And I've had people call that are going to do their neighborhoods, and it's the last Saturday in April, 8 to 12. out of here.
Okay, anything else on that? Okay, no, we have nothing under minutes. Next meeting agenda, we have a hearing at 7:05 PM. It's an application of Kelly's Place at the Crossings Incorporated, DBA Kelly's Place, manager Carol A. Cusack, for alterations of premises to add a patio to its common vicular all alcoholic license to expose, keep for sale, and to sell all kinds of alcoholic beverages to be drunk on the premises at 292 East Main Street, Norton, Massachusetts, 02766. We'll also have some discussion and vote and/or vote on the draft May 8th, 2017 Spring Annual Town Meeting warrant articles. Is there anything else? Mr. Steele?
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Genius, do you think it would be possible on the hearing, could we just get a report back from Chief Clark about if there's been any violations or complaints under the current license?
Okay. Sure.
Because I'd like to know that. I imagine there might be a little community pushback on that, and I'd like to know if there have been any complaints since we extended the license about a year
Yep,
ago.
that's a good one. Okay. Anybody else have anything for the agenda?
Did we do that? I wasn't paying attention.
What'd I do? I missed something?
No, did we do the warrant?
No, we
Not
didn't.
yet,
No.
Okay.
Good thing you watched
Thought
it.
I wasn't paying attention.
No, no,
I wasn't.
it's coming up.
Yeah, I was saving that for last.
Yeah.
Under warrants and minutes, we have the entertain a motion to approve the bills warrant number 57 dated March 23rd, 2017, in the amount of $132,020.70.
Second.
We'll open a second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Did I miss anything else?
No, it's good.
Nothing important.
Okay, good. Okay, we have no executive session tonight. We are going to reorganize the board tonight. Without a chairman, I know my concern is that if we don't have a chairman and the vice chairman, who happens to be me, can't make it, then we especially have a public hearing, and it's been publicized, and, you know, there's some issues that might come up from, because of it. And just as a reminder, we normally reorganize after the April election. Unless someone does a writing campaign, we're pretty much going to be the four of us here and after that election, because Mrs. Steele is not being opposed at this time unless we decide to. But so my suggestion would be that we just reorganize and carry on into next year. At any time, any member of the board, and it almost happened a few years ago, I remember, at any time can ask for reorganization. It can happen in July, it can happen whenever you want to do it. So having said that, I'm going to turn this meeting over to Mr. Units
Okay.
for reorganization. I will not give you this. I'm sorry, you're not going to have that. I know you like to have that gavel, but
Are there any nominations for a chairman of the Board of Selectmen?
I nominate Mr. Kimball.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominations?
I move the nomination to be closed.
Second.
All those in favor in closing nominations?
Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor of Mr. Kimball as chairman?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Now, do you do it, or you want?
no, you can continue
Okay.
on.
Are there any nominations for vice chairman of the Board of Selectmen?
I nominate Mr. Brad Bramwell.
I'll second it.
Is there any other nominations? Is there a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second? All those in favor and close the nominations?
Aye.
All those in favor of Brad Bramwell as vice chairman, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. And is there a motion for a clerk for the Board of Selectmen?
I'll make a motion for Bob Salvo.
Is that
Second.
seconded by Brad?
I move to close nominations.
Second.
Seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And all those in favor of Bob Sabo as clerk of the Board of Selectmen?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Thank you all. I think we made it through that all right. And obviously, we'll be a four-member board until the election on June 6th. So, in the meantime, obviously, we have a lot of work to do, and as much as we can drag ourselves in here, we need to do that for the next few weeks to make sure we can continue on with the business at hand. So, having said that, I'll make a motion, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.